Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Diane Oxbury.
Well, the best of the weather has already been around this morning because the cloud is now starting to build, and once we get past lunchtime, we'll start to see a bit of drizzly rain breaking out here and there. The wind direction is changing as well, so the air is cooler, so your top temperature this afternoon, without much sunshine, only 16 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hiya. I'm getting fed up with this government and its mealy-mouth half plans. 32 days. Why don't we just find everyone with a brown face and lock the lot of them up? And we'll do all the Irish and all. They can't be trusted. They blew Manchester up. Lock all them up. Eh? Do them. Germans, we've had more wars than we want with them. Let's lock them beggars up. The French, nobody likes them. Lock them up. The Italians, you don't have to bother. They'll surrender. I mean, come on. The 42-day thing, it is utterly racist. Oh, come on, get out of here. How many white people do you think are going to be locked up for 42 days? Answer? None. None. It's racist, it's nasty, it's evil, and as a nation, surely, we're better than that. We are better than that. We might not have an empire anymore. We might not be the richest nation on the planet. Indeed, we're now 5th instead of 4th. But surely we are better than that. We're not a tin pot dictatorship in some horrible African country. We're better than that. Surely.
Heather Stott. Not so much lifestyle, more real life. Tell me how it works.
When you rub urine onto your skin, it pulls the acid away from your skin. So fresh urine in the morning is the one that they suggest to use. And as you're rubbing it on, and don't take my word for it, do try it, it becomes salty on your skin. So if you put your tongue on your skin, your tongue will become salty.
So now we're licking wee off our own faces.
Heather Stott. Tomorrow morning from 9 on BBC Radio Manchester.
If wee is so good for your skin, how come babies get nappy rash?
Allan Beswick. BBC Radio Manchester.
If you really are interested in the congestion charge and the effect that the £3 billion raised will have on public transport in Manchester, if you log on to the bbc.co.uk Manchester website, there's a map there. You can have a look at it. You can download it if you want. You can print it off for yourself. You can hold it forever. And then in 3 years' time, when it turns out to be nothing like that, you can wave it under the council's snout. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And, of course, you can text on 07786 206 951. Carol in North Wales. Hiya, Carol.
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
No disrespect, but I really wanted to speak to Heather.
Well, hard luck.
But maybe your listeners can help you, because you're probably like me, and we don't know. Now, I experience lights in my bedroom. Now, what it is, my bedroom's upstairs, that's right, but the roof is on top of my... It's like a bungalow being diverted or whatever. And I've got a big skylight in the roof, which is above my bed. I've got a blind on it and everything. But occasionally, I get this very, very bright light, only for a split second. Now, I have tried to investigate it, and as far as I've got is, they call it earth light. Now, how does a light from earth come to the roof of my house? Now, I know I live on the top of a mountain, well, halfway up a mountain, but have you ever heard of them?
No.
Well, that's what I've been told, by somebody who thought they knew. But I wanted to know, I mean, it happens now, and it wakes me up. It's only a split second, but it's so bright, Alan. It wakes me up. I thought it was coming something. It's not thunder, because there's no thunder, there's no lightning. It's very dead quiet, and suddenly this bright, bright light shines right through a blind and through into my bedroom.
Good heavens.
So you haven't heard of earth lights?
You mean Earth lights?
Yes,
Yeah.
as in Earth.
As in Earth, as in the planet? No.
Well, I wonder if your listeners out there can help me, because I'm getting a bit old now. And before I pop off, I'd like to know what it is.
Well, it won't wake you up then, will it? The only, well...
I'm not crackers.
No, well, we'll be the judge of that, love. The only time I've heard the phrase Earth lights was actually when talking to astronomers about the street lights and other lighting on Earth. I must admit I've not heard of Earth lights in any other context, but you can bet your bottom dollar that someone listening right now has. So.
Well, I hope so, Alan, because there's no lights, no street lights, hardly any. It's complete darkness.
No, that's. I was just saying.
You can imagine, can't you? On halfway up a mountain. So we're not sort of blurred by electric lights. But I really, it's so bright. I can be in a deep sleep, and it's gone. It's in a split second. I mean, I did ring up.
Let me. I mean, this might seem like a daft question. Has it ever happened when you're not asleep?
Oh yes.
Oh right. So it's not. You're not dreaming it, and you wake up.
Oh gosh, no. And I tell you what. Between you and me and the gatepost, don't tell anybody else.
No, I won't. No.
Please don't tell anybody else.
No, there's no chance of anyone else finding out at this time of day. Go on.
No. Well, I did ring up a university.
Oh dear.
And to the science department, and this lady suggested that I took a photograph of it. And I thought, well, how could you take a photograph?
You'd have to be quick, wouldn't you? I suppose you'd have to have a flash. I suppose you could take a video. You could set your video. A recorder, obviously, not the player.
No, it should have to be on 24 hours.
Well, it's only happening at night, so that's narrowed it down at the moment.
Well, it might happen at day, but of course I wouldn't
You don't see it,
in the day, would
so
I?
you wouldn't bother recording it in the day.
No.
You've only ever seen it at night, so you put it on during the hours of darkness.
Well, the thing is, I really would like somebody to help me, because it's a mystery to me.
All right.
It really is a mystery.
Okay, well...
So I'll carry on. I'm in the garden. I'm listening to you in the garden.
Right, then.
So I've got my little porty radio.
Okay, well...
All right, then.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Earth lights. Carol wants to know what are Earth lights, and we don't mean when astronomers say all the trouble with astronomy these days is Earth lights. That's the lights on Earth, as it were. People just lighting the streets and lighting their back gardens or whatever. But what are Earth lights in phenomenon terms? I must admit I've not heard of them. If you have, do share. 0161 228 2255 if you know what Earth lights are. Gordon says, no, Alan, you are wrong. Gordon often says, no, Alan, you are wrong. We are a tin pot totalitarian state who has to pay through the nose for everything. I say we all move out and leave the immigrants to it. The problem is, where can we go? Any ideas? Well, yeah, I've got lots of ideas of places you can go, but I presume, Gordon, that you're wondering where you might go that is better. And then, of course, we're snookered. Yeah. The Shell thing, strike. It's a strike. It's complicated. It's not Shell. It's the firm that Shell employ and the drivers of that firm who are going on strike. But it's being called the Shell strike, which is fair enough. We don't mind. Can I have a word in your Shell strike? No, all right. It was okay at first. 0161 228 2255. Are you filling up today? Oh, I'm filling up. Are you filling up your car with fuel today because of the impending strike by drivers who deliver Shell petrol? Yeah, and other motor fuels. Yeah. Then you're disobeying the government, you naughty person. The government says there's no need to panic, and if nobody panics, there'll be enough to go round. However, if you do panic, there will only be enough to go round for the ones who are panicking. Those like me who take it sensibly in his stride will end up with no fuel because you greedy pigs have all bought it. Roy in Manchester. Hiya, Roy.
Hello, Alan.
Hello,
Alan,
Roy.
another problem. Alan, I watched a programme last week about dustbins. It was on the television about old people having to drag the bins a mile and a half and
Oh, yes.
and blah, blah, so on.
Yeah.
And now they've come out, or some I don't know, Brain Dead Corporation has come up with something about they're going to inform their employees not to move a bin if it takes over the strength of 2 fingers to move this bin.
To pull it along, yeah.
That's right, which wound me up that. This is stupid. So what I did was I phoned last night the BBC newsroom to put my question to them. They thought it was extremely funny, but said no, get on Allan Beswick, we don't want to know. And then, so I thought, well, that's not fair. So I tried your television thing, and they molested the same. Oh, get on Allan Beswick, Beswick, get on Allan Beswick.
Oh, you mean Beswick? Oh,
I mean, well, sorry.
Allan Beswick. No, I've been confused with less august people in the past. I assure you.
See, yeah. So anyway, my question is, Alan, if this scheme should take where dustbins can only be moved at the discretion of the dustbin man, if he has to move it 4 foot to the vehicle and tip it and so forth, I can't understand why. I've noticed, myself including, I'm 74, old people and things drag these bins not with 2 fingers but with 2 hands out of the yard and the gardens, down the passages and side houses, onto the front, and then put them on the front. What they're not allowed to do under no circumstances is put it another 4 foot onto the dustbin cart, because that's highly technical, third-rate mechanical engineering, anyway, that's it. But these men have the right to refuse to take it because of the strength of using 2 fingers. What I've noticed, Alan, is the same men I drink with sometimes at night as I go testing the waters, and I've noticed these men pick up pint pots, and these pint pots they pick up, I defy you or anybody looking like you to pick it up with 2 fingers. They always take 3 and 4 fingers to pick a full pint, and these men are struggling all night. They haven't complained about it, they haven't said anything, but this is how they struggle with them. And I've heard of no safety officer, a union rep, or a cruelty inspector, or a counsellor, or environment. I've known of nobody going into a pub to check on the suffering that men go through picking up a pint pot.
But you see...
And yet they can... they're not allowed to move a dustbin.
I love it, but you've sort of missed the point here. The purpose of the not being able to move it with 2 fingers, first of all, they're not lifting it, they're only dragging it, and second of all, the fear isn't that they might do their backing, lifting or pulling this heavy thing, but when it gets on the gazooby that lifts it up...
Right, yeah.
But when it gets on the gazooby to lift it up to tip the rubbish into the truck, it's if it fell off...
Yeah.
It would harm them.
True, Alan, true, but...
Well, that's what they're on about. That's why the 2 fingers rule was discussed.
Yeah, but logic alone, that's only third-rate engineering. They lift it something like 12, nearly 15 foot up in the bloody air to begin with.
Well, they don't. The truck does.
The truck does.
Yeah, well, that's what they're saying. It's the truck that lifts it.
It's so simple to me to design a bin wagon, what we could call a low loader.
Yeah.
A low loader. That you can put your bins on the side of it. It could just drive up on a woman, being as she dragged it all that way and been silly enough for you to on, could just clunk it on this low loader and just tip it in the thing on its side and give them the bin.
Well, the trouble,
to lift it all that high.
Well, you see, the great problem is that lifting them. They lift them, and we've not found a way around it. We're still working on it, but we lift them up to empty them because we've noticed we've noticed that stuff falls down, not up.
No, that's right. Yeah, well, that
I know it's right.
Of the bin.
Years of experience.
But saying that, a low loader system, which they used, good God, they used to lift bombs in the war.
They did used to lift bombs,
and everything.
Yeah.
But
you see, the problem here is, you're absolutely right. In fact, what they could do, and it can't be long now before they are doing it, what they could do is not lift it at all, just come round, kick it on the floor, and tip the rubbish on the floor. And then they could put it in the truck bit by bit, and none of it would be heavy.
That's right.
None of it would be too heavy, unless you've put an anvil in your bin, obviously, that'd screw them, but otherwise, you could just do that.
And if you can just clip it on the side yourself, you can get rid of hundreds of employees.
Oh, yeah, that's always a good idea. Local authorities are always keen on that.
Thousands of pounds.
It would save us a fortune. Absolute Let's do away with the dustbin man, and let's train everybody, including the Algimmers, let's train everybody to ook their bin onto the ookie-ook at the side of the dustbin lorry.
That's right.
And do away with the dustbin men. Fantastic. Anyway. Another thing we could do, we get rid of all them bloody postmen. I'm sure I could walk around putting a letter through an envelope through a letterbox. Easy.
BBC Radio Manchester. Headline News.
There's a big test of Gordon Brown's leadership later over how long terror suspects can be held without being charged. The government wants to increase it from 28 days to 42. There'll be a vote later. The government's being urged to extend its consultation programme for a road congestion charge in Manchester to neighbouring counties such as Cheshire and Lancashire. And the Altrincham-based company Cotton Traders says it's upgraded security on its website after it emerged that customers' credit card details were stolen by hackers earlier this year. Manchester's weather, bright spells but generally cloudy with scattered rain. Highs of 16 Celsius. I'm Faye Rusco.
I think you can hear the sound of a stable door closing.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Watch out for problems in Prestwich. Bury New Road, the A56. The traffic light's still out at the junction of Scholes Lane at the moment, so approach that one with care. And also looking at the Sharston Link Road, traffic is coping fairly well, but heading towards the M60 from the M56, still restricted, down to 40 miles an hour for the ongoing bridge maintenance work that's controlled by speed cameras. Anything else, do call in hands-free 0161 244 4951. I'm Dave Chipman.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
So Roy's had a cracking idea. Sack all the dustbin people. I nearly said dustbin men then, and then there'd have been letters off butch women with overalls. Anyway, so moustaches. So they don't all have moustaches, I'll grant you. Anyway, so but there would have been letters. But sack all the dustbin personnel. The refuge collection pointy binny at ookie thingy on lorry personnel, and we'll do that bit ourselves. So they'll tell you when the dustbin trucks, as they would then be. What is that? Demi's trucks. The dustbin trucks would come round, and you'd drag your bin lorry, your wheelie bin around, and you'd ook it onto the truck yourself. And then you'd have to press a lever, so you'd need a course and an O-level. Or you could do GCSEs in it within a week. And up it would go, and tip it in, down it comes, and you wheel it off again. Which is a cracking idea if you happen to be an Algimmer that never goes out. But obviously some of us are out for a couple of hours a day doing a day's work. I know. Some people even, I've heard that some people it stuns me to know, but I believe some people work as long as 8 hours. How the bloody hell they manage that, I don't know, but they do. Some people. So it'd be like taxis. That's how we do it. Your wheelie bin's full, and you ring the wheelie bin man from the council and say, "Wait, wheelie bin, can you get round here sharpish?" It's like dial-a-ride. You know them people in wheelchairs? It'd be like that. Instead of coming round with an ookie-ookie on the back for your wheelchair, put you in, take you to shop, you'll have dial-a-ride, dial-a-crap. So you ring the council, it can be 888. Oh no, I think that's something else. Never mind. 666, yeah, that'll be right. So you ring dial-a-crap, and around comes the lorry, and you nip out sharpish with your wheelie bin, trundle it down the garden, dum, 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 and you ook it on the ookie on the side of the dial-a-crap truck, lifts it up, pops it in, down, off the dial-a-crap truck, back into the house. And he just does it. They just come when you're ready. There's a joke in there I'm not using. So that could do it, couldn't it? We could have dial-a-crap instead of all these people wandering around saying, "I'm not touching that, that's too heavy." And I think there's a tea bag in that one. And as for you, Algimmer, it's only half a mile. Drag it down the lane, you lazy cow. That's what's going to happen. So there it is. Thank you for that. And he's the producer. I've just been told there's already a number for dial-a-crap. It's 0161 228 2255. That's Richard Fair. He's the bloody producer.
Allan Beswick, BBC Radio Manchester.
Oh dear, it's all downhill from here. Paul in Didsbury, are you?
How do, Alan?
How do? What can I do for you?
Right, I don't know if you remember, I was asking this question about these lights, and they were waking me up in the night and all that. Do you remember? It's a long time.
I remember. No, I do remember, yeah. We always remember the nutters.
Yeah.
Go on.
I wouldn't say I was a nutter.
I know you wouldn't, but those around you. Go on, Paul, I'm sorry.
Apparently it's iridium satellite flashes from the skies, and it's when the sun sets or it rises, it catches it, and that's what it is.
That's it?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the meridian?
Satellite flashes and sparks.
Right. And do we know where they come from?
Where did it come from?
It's a low.
It's a low orbiting satellite.
Oh, it's just a satellite?
Yeah, in the sky.
It's got a hell of a torch on it, hasn't it?
Aye. But there's one more question. There's another question I'd like to ask you.
Go on.
On certain programs on the TV, and you phone in for to win a car or whatever, and they say, it's going to cost so much if you text or you phone in, but it's free if you go on the website or the internet. Why is it free on the internet?
It's free because they've not yet found a way, these companies, I suspect, of charging you to log on to their website.
Right. No doubt they will do.
I'm sure they're working on it as we speak.
All right. Thank you very much, Alan.
Good on you. 0161 228 2255. Whilst we've been chatting, as we do, I've looked up Earthlights on the internet. Earthlights, this is for Carol, and Paul's just explained one thought. We may well yet get more, but Earthlights are a rare anomalous light phenomenon mistaken throughout history as dragons, UFOs and ball lightning before being recognised as a separate category. One leading theory is that they are produced by tectonic strain in minor fault lines, so that they are literally generated by the Earth. In America, they've been called spook lights or ghosted lights since at least the 1950s, but Persinger and Lafreniere were the first scientists to recognise the phenomenon in the late 1970s. The lights were renamed and brought to a wider public attention by Paul Devereaux in 1982 with his publication Earth Lights. Carol, what I'm saying to you really, and I know you're in North Wales, so you'll be a long way from one generally, but if you go to the public library, Carol, there will be a book in there. You might have to order it. It's a man called Paul Devereaux, and it's a book simply called Earthlights. And Carol, you will get the full Monty, as they say, which can be a bit scary in a library, but you'll get all the details there from Sandra in Oldham. Hiya, Sandra.
Hello, Alan.
What can we do for you?
It's a bit of a problem I'm having with a travel company.
Okay.
What it was that we found that we weren't able to go on a holiday on a particular day. But my daughter and her partner said, well, no problem. We'd like to go on that holiday, so we'll take it off you, and then you can book another holiday at a different time. So I rang up the travel company and I said, look, we can't go that date, but I found you 2 new customers for that holiday, and we'd like to give you a whole load more money by booking us on another holiday at a more convenient date. And basically, they've turned us down. They've said that we can't change the booking, we can't change it to your daughter because it's a different name. And I was quite prepared to pay, an administration fee for doing that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, in fact, the surname's the same, so all you have to do on your computer is just change one initial for her and put her partner's name on. And I'm quite willing to pay you, I think it was £25 each administration fee. So I'm quite willing to pay that £50 and give you a whole load more money to book me on another holiday.
Where did you get the £25 from? You just suddenly came up with that figure?
No, because it had been going on for ages, and initially they said, yes, we can do that.
You haven't told me where the £25 came from.
Initially it was from then.
Right,
but
so they initially said, we can do that, but there'll be a £25 administration fee.
For each person.
For each person, OK.
Yeah, and I said, yeah, OK, that's fine.
So what happened next?
They then said, after a while, they said, because it's 2 people, we can't do it. Because it's 2, we can only change 1 person.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well...
What reason did they give?
They said because if it's 2 people, it then becomes a cancellation.
OK.
And I said, well, the thing is, I don't think my daughter's partner wants to go with her father, and neither does my daughter want to go with her father.
But the reason they wouldn't let you change 2 is because that's not changing, that is cancelling, in their view.
In their view, yeah.
What does it say in your contract?
Well, it was done online. So
well, there's a contract. When you're booking something online, there's a little box that you have to tick. It says, I have read and agree to be bound by the terms and conditions. Nobody ever reads them. Everybody ticks it. If you don't tick it, you can't go on to the next stage. So you did tick it, but you didn't read them, did you?
No, not properly.
No, you didn't. OK. What do you mean, not properly? You read them a bit?
Yeah, I just read...
Did you read the bit about cancellation?
Yeah, and it did say on the terms and conditions on the ones that I clicked on the internet that you could change it and there was an administration fee. But they're saying that it doesn't come under their terms and conditions.
It's their terms and conditions you need to have, not somebody else's.
Well, they're saying it's the terms and conditions of the tour operator, who they are agents for, because that was why initially they said I could do it, but then when they spoke to the tour operator, they said, no, their terms and conditions are different. OK.
Let me ask another question, and only answer this if you want to, but why can't you go on the dates that you booked it for?
Well, it's just that something... I'd booked this in January, and in the meantime, something had come up, and we can't be in 2 places at the same time.
Well, OK, I understand that. You may not want to give me details. I'll tell you why I'm asking.
It's not a health thing or anything.
Right, so there's no insurance that you can use. You can't get it back from the insurance company?
No, it's a personal thing rather than a health thing.
So it's a wedding or something like that?
Yeah.
OK. I can't see a way that you can force them to take 2 other people, because you're actually talking about a cancellation.
Right.
And what you can't do is you can't sell the holiday on their behalf.
Right.
You've bought the holiday, and that's the contract. Now, they will let you change the details, but if you change all the details, then I'm afraid it's no longer the holiday.
But
have you tried another tack? And that is, instead of changing the names, which appears to be causing them some consternation, why not try and change the dates of the holiday?
Well, I did try and do that.
And what was the outcome there?
Well, after ringing them, and they were saying, well, we'll look and we'll ring you back, and being stuck on the phone.
And what was the outcome?
They said there was no availability.
At the times you want to go?
Yes.
So even as you put it, we let our daughter and son-in-law, whoever it was, these other 2 people go on the holiday, and your phrase, not mine, we give you a lot more money to go elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Even that's not available, because you're not postponing the holiday. Again, you're cancelling it and buying a more expensive one.
Right, but...
Is that the case?
Well, yeah, well, what they were saying...
No, I'm asking what you're trying to say. I'm asking you, you've been on to them and said that, well, your terms were, we'll send somebody else on this holiday and we'll go later making even more money for you.
Yeah.
And they've said, well, that would still be a cancellation. So you weren't postponing this actual holiday, you were cancelling it and taking an entirely different holiday at another time.
Well, we said we would be open to anything else that they could find us within those dates.
Within those dates. And they're saying there's absolutely nothing available?
Well, there is through them themselves, but they say that we have to stick with the tour operator that they're the agent for.
Well, OK. Well, does that tour operator offer anything else?
The company themselves is a very large one, and they've got holidays all the time.
Yes, indeed. But have you spoken to the tour operator?
No, because
Well,
you
let's
have
start.
to go through. You have to go through them, and they've said they've spoken to the tour operator.
Well, at the moment, what you've got, Sandra, is everybody telling you no.
Yeah.
So why don't you ring the tour operator? And if they say, "Oh, we're not talking to you," it's because you tuppence. Talk to the tour operator. Say, we've got this holiday booked. We can't go on those dates, and we fully understand the contractual rules, but we're quite prepared to buy a different holiday on other dates, even possibly a more expensive one, and see what they say. They might laugh you out, in which case, what have you lost?
I spoke to the supervisor about a week ago, and she spoke to the tour operator and put that to them, but they still said no. And
Or at least that's what they're telling you.
Well, that's what they said.
So why don't you talk to the tour operator?
They've just said that it's going to cost you £150 cancellation fee. That's it. There's no
Well,
other...
hang on a minute. It's going to cost you £150 cancellation fee, so they're just going to take 150 quid off you.
Yeah.
But nothing else.
Nothing else.
Well, you were going to pay £100 to change it.
Well, no, it would have been 50.
It would have been 50.
£25.
All right. Well, frankly, give it a whirl. Talk to the tour operator, and if the tour operator says nothing doing, then I think you're probably snookered.
Yeah.
And that you either go on the holiday and miss the wedding or whatever it is, or you go to the wedding and miss the holiday. Either way, it's not pretty. But, when you talk to the tour operator, they just might think, hang on a minute, there's a chance of a sale here.
Well, that's what I can't understand.
Well, you're not talking to the tour operator, that's why. So talk to the tour operator. Give it a try. What can go wrong?
No, nothing, but
Exactly.
as I say, that as far as I know, they've spoken to the tour operator on a number of occasions.
All right,
and
well,
rang me back.
don't ring them then. Give up and lose the 150 quid.
Yeah.
Or talk to the tour operator.
I mean, I can give it another go.
Exactly. No, not another go, a new go. Talk to the tour operator.
Right.
It'll cost you £2 bob, and if it fails, fine.
Yeah.
If it doesn't fail, you'll be thinking, good God, that Beswick knows what he's talking about.
Right.
Give it a whirl. You never know, it might work. I don't think it will, but it might.
Yeah.
Have a good one. 0161 228 2255. That's got to be one hell of a wedding. Are you going to the Rooney wedding? John in Wigan.
Hi, Alan.
Hiya, John.
Is this phone number for having some crap?
Go on, mate.
I caught something, an article on the news last night, the 10 o'clock news, and it was about criminals who have been convicted and sent to prison.
Yeah.
And they were being decided to start to give them methadone, which is the heroin replacement, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is a drug they can take. And the reason they started to give it to them was because a number of them who were going in who were stealing stuff to pinch to get drugs.
Yeah.
When they was going in, they were going cold turkey and they were committing suicide. Now, I find it I'm very sceptical, very hard to believe that we live in a society where women with breast cancer have to fight tooth and nail to get a drug to help save their lives, and yet criminals who go in get sent down for stealing, people who would rob you as soon as look at you. We start shelling money out from the taxpayer to keep these people in drugs, just in prison. I just find the irony unbelievable.
What would you see as the alternative? I accept what you say about people with breast cancer having to fight for drugs. I accept that, and if we both say that's a bad thing and we ought, all the drugs that are available, all the drugs that have been invented that might work ought to be available on the National Health Service. We put that to one side and agree on that, John. What do you think is the alternative for drug addicts who go into prison?
Alternative, if they want to commit suicide, let them commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's hard on their families or whatever, but those people, when they go into prison, they do get therapy, which can't get out of prison, I believe. So they get therapy in prison, they can get guidance, but I don't think we should be given the drugs. And if a few criminals die, Alan, then I'm not bothered.
Well, what about the ones that don't die and come out still entirely a drug addict and end up killing some lady with a billiard ball in a sock?
Well, but that would be just the state if you're giving them a methadone. I mean,
the thing about methadone, if you can get this argument took place yesterday because there was a report. The report was that the scheme set up to rehabilitate drug addicts had not succeeded by any measure, because instead of them being addicted to heroin and cocaine and other drugs, they were prescribed methadone, which they were addicted to instead. Now, that was the report yesterday, and I suspect that's what they were touching on in the report on the news. Now, my question is, and I honestly don't know the right answer, but my question is, if we don't give them methadone and we just give them cold turkey, it's got a very, very, very low success rate, as indeed has methadone. It's got a very, very low success rate. But when they come out of prison, if they go back on heroin, they will steal, rape, well, rape's probably out, but they will steal, they will murder, they'll do what they need to do to get their heroin, which means that are going to be victims of those crimes. But if instead they're getting methadone from the state, they won't commit those crimes. That's the theory. Neither of them work at getting people off drugs, really. And I know all the drug campaigners are going to be giving me hell now, but I'll live with that. Neither of them work at getting people off drugs. One of them transfers them from an addiction to an illegal drug to a legal drug under prescription.
I mean, I would like to see a halfway house for these people who come out of prison on drugs, and somewhere where they could be controlled and watched. Personally, I see the arguments about obviously giving them methadone, but I just find the irony when other people have obviously can't get drugs for other things and they get it in prison. And to be honest with you, I still think the same. If they go cook turkey in prison and some of them die, well, I've not got a problem with that.
I've not got a problem with that, but I have got a problem with if they come out and beat me granny up.
Well, yeah, I mean...
That really pees me off. And for the sake of a couple of issues of methadone, I'd rather have them wandering about. I'd rather have my granny still alive. She's been dead a very, very long time now, and she wasn't beaten to death, but she could so easily be, and somebody else's granny could be. But hey, so we lose 6 convicts to suicide, and the rest of them come out and beat up old ladies. Sounds like a great policy.
Well, I don't think that would work that way. I think I think obviously if they do any more crimes when they come out, you lock them up for longer, keep them in for longer in the first place.
And what do we do with the victim in the meantime? Oh, bury him, why not?
BBC Radio Manchester. Headline News.
The latest figures show there's been the biggest rise in unemployment for nearly 2 years. The number of people out of work rose by 38,000 in the 3 months to April to 1.64 million. The government's being urged to extend its consultation programme for a road congestion charge in Manchester to neighbouring counties such as Cheshire and Lancashire. And the Altrincham-based company Cotton Traders says it's upgraded security on its website after it emerged that customers' credit card details were stolen by hackers earlier this year. Manchester's weather, bright spells but generally cloudy with scattered rain, highs of 16 Celsius. I'm Faye Rusco.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
There's been a multi-vehicle accident on the M60, junction 13 clockwise. The motorway has now been closed by the police. It's involving a lorry, a car and a bus. Police are on scene there. Traffic looking heavy, as you can imagine, from the scene of the accident, queuing back on the clockwise side. Also anti-clockwise, looking heavy as people slow down to have a look at what's going on. Any updates on that or anything else, do call in. Hands-free, 0161 244 4951. I'm Dave Chipman.
You see, now, if the chap who was on yesterday, who was very much in favour of creating an orbital motorway, an orbital tramway next to the M60 at Gorries Way, all those people who are delayed now could just climb over the fence and get on the tram. As you see, I thought it was a daft idea, but it's looking better already.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Dennis Lloyd.
Bolton goalkeeper Jussi Jääskeläinen has agreed a new 4-year deal which will see him finish his career at the Reebok Stadium. The 33-year-old Finn had looked set to move on at the end of the season following 11 years at the club, but with Bolton guaranteed Premier League football next season, he's decided to stay put. Blackburn captain Ryan Nelson says he won't be following Mark Hughes to Manchester City. The defender has instead pledged his future to Rovers, despite speculation that he would join his former boss at Eastlands. The teams in Group A play their second round of matches at Euro 2008 tonight. Manchester United's Cristiano Ronaldo is in action for Portugal against the Czech Republic, whilst hosts Switzerland face Turkey. The former United midfielder Paul Ince says there's not much the Reds can do, though, if Ronaldo wants to move to Real Madrid. The current MK Dons boss says the Portuguese winger may feel he's done all he can at Old Trafford.
All I would say in the matter is that as a kid growing up in England, you know, I always wanted to play for Manchester United or one of the big clubs, Man United and Liverpool. I think when you're a foreign lad, whether it's Spain, Portugal, Italy, you know, you want to play for the big teams over there, which is Real Madrid, Barcelona, Inter Milan. And maybe Christian's thinking, you know, he had such a fantastic season last year. He won the Premiership, he won the Champions League. What more else can he do for Manchester United? Maybe you think along those lines.
The chairman of the Premier League claims the increase in overseas players has damaged the England team. Sir David Richards also believes the academy systems hasn't worked. Wigan duo Gareth Hock and Phil Bailey are both doubts for Saturday's game against the Catalan Dragons. Hock picked up an ankle injury in training, whilst Bailey damaged his groin against Leeds in the Challenge Cup. And with captain Sean O'Loughlin still sidelined, Cameron Phelps could be set to make his first team debut in Perpignan. Elsewhere in Rugby League, Bradford forward Glenn Morrison has been ruled out for the rest of the season. The Bulls had hoped he'd be fit to face St Helens in the Super League on Friday, but he broke part of his kneecap against Leeds last month. James Anderson and Stuart Law both returned to the Lancashire team for tonight's opening 2020 Cup game against Leicestershire. Anderson has been on England duty, whilst Law has recovered from a broken finger. Lancashire's latest signing, Lou Vincent, has told BBC Radio Manchester that it's a dream come true to play for the county. Vincent has joined Lancs as their overseas player for the tournament.
To be honest, I'm a rep to have that opportunity to even play a game for this club, because you know, it's like the Manchester United of cricket over here, and to be playing with the likes of the boys in that team and getting on the park in front of this famous ground, it's an emotional time.
BBC Radio Manchester has coverage of the game from 5:30 this evening, with ball-by-ball commentary from 6 o'clock. The England batsman Andrew Strauss claims he and the rest of the team will consider boycotting matches against Zimbabwe next summer if President Robert Mugabe stays in power. Strauss says the team weren't happy playing against Zimbabwe the last two times the sides met, and doesn't want to be caught up in another political row.
The two previous tours to Zimbabwe have been very difficult issues in which players have been, to a certain extent, left in the lurch by the ECB and the government, I think. And I think when we come round to the issue again, we all hope that the political situation in Zimbabwe will be very different then. But if it isn't, they're going to be very difficult decisions to be made.
And in tennis, Andy Roddick and Rafael Nadal are both in action in the Artois Championships at Queen's Club this afternoon. Britain's Andy Murray, meanwhile, is playing in the doubles.
Life and a laugh every morning. Eamon and Diane.
Eamon and Diane.
Because you sent me Delaney's Donkey on YouTube.
I did, actually, yeah.
Hogan, Logan, and Mary Ann McGrath. Pushing it, shoving it, shushing it, pushing it.
Eamon and Diane, and you.
Paul is the Wizard of Oz on this one. He's the one who's pulling the strings on this one.
What's your favourite song in The Wizard of Oz?
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
If ever a whiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because.
It's
a bit obvious, that, to be honest.
The station with Eamon and Diane for breakfast.
That's where you want to be.
Back tomorrow morning from 6 at BBC Radio Manchester.
The dial-a-crap idea is beginning to grow on me. Primarily because David's come up with a sophistication. You say, I had this trouble. We ended up with dial-a-crap, of course, because Roy suggested that we sack all the bin personnel and we just have the trucks, so that you could then take your bin, your wheelie bin, down to the truck. It would be hooked onto the Uki, lifted, tipped, put down on the street. You take it back again. But I immediately, as is my wont, I immediately saw the flaw in his plan and said, well, some of us have to go to work, the shops, all sorts of things. Even holidays, but you don't make much crap round here when you're on holiday. I appreciate that's a red herring. And so then we ended up with, well, OK, what we'd have to do, we'd have dial-a-crap. Instead of every other Tuesday or whenever it is, instead of that, you would just ring up dial-a-crap and they would come round with a smaller truck, like a minibus, but with hooks on the side. Yeah, a sort of transit. I didn't really want to advertise Fords, but never mind, a sort of transit truck, dial-a-crap. They would come round straight away. But David's much more sophisticated than I, and he has this wonderful idea. Each street could have a nominated driver, and then he or she can drive the wagon to the next street. Yeah. Yeah, and after a while, these people would start saying, hang on a minute, this nominated driver like's not worth a candle. And someone will say, well, I know we can make that one, we'll pay him. Yeah, we'll pay them. And then when you do that, of course, you're back on the ladder, aren't you? You're back there. You're back with you. Exactly. So it's gone full circle. So I'm afraid dialer crap stands. Maud in Worsley. Hiya, Maud.
Is that Allan Beswick?
Yeah. Hell of a surprise, you ringing this number and getting me. Go on.
Well, I've been trying because this is very urgent. It's very important. I don't know if you remember Fred Goodrich. For years he's been trying to get the garage in this pathway outside of the bungalow. Now, the police have asked me to ring you because my husband's just had this accident. He's backing the car out on where it is now, and someone sped round because there's a terrible lot of traffic round here now compared to what there used to be. You're getting all the trucks and everything. And he sped round. My husband turned the car to avoid him. He's crashed through the barrier. He's gone down the embankment. The police have had to get him out. And they've said, no way must you have a garage here, because it's dangerous. Your husband has been very lucky. The car's a write-off. They've had to take that away. Now, I'm in a
Is
position...
your husband all right? Can we...
It's hurt his foot, but they said he was very lucky because he crashed into a tree. Of course, the car is a write-off. It's smashed up. Now, it's very important. We have to have a garage. I'm in a wheelchair.
Right.
And where we're situated, this side passage would be ideal. He's been trying for years to get the garage there. Now, we've left the car at the front, and believe it or not, one's been pinched and it's been set on a fire, so that was a write-off. We have had nothing but trouble. And if we could get this garage in this side passage, as the police said, it would solve everything, because no way you cannot have a garage here now. It's too dangerous. Your husband's been very lucky.
Okay, so the purpose of this phone call today, apart from setting out a more urgent need for it, is to somehow acquire a garage at the side of your house.
Yes, he's been trying for years. You've got loads of paperwork off him.
Yes.
And each time he's been turned down.
So he's made application to the local authority?
Oh, for years. For years. He's got loads of paperwork.
Yeah, what reason do they give for turning it down?
Well, they just said they'll try and get him there, but...
No. If they've turned him down, they won't be saying we'll try.
No, they did say that...
has he made...
he has always made several applications.
Yeah, it would be a lot easier if you let me just ask you a few questions for the moment.
Okay.
When you say he's made loads of applications...
For years. Council.
To the council?
Yeah.
Were they...
We've had many.
No, let me remember what we said.
Sorry.
It's okay, don't worry.
Yeah.
He was going to... Has he made application for planning permission?
Yes, he's made applications to the council several times.
Yeah, for planning permission.
And wrote letters.
Yeah. Was it for planning permission?
Yes. They said it can't...
No, was it for planning permission?
Yes.
Yes, it was. So he applied for planning permission to erect a garage at the side of the house.
They've refused him.
And they've refused him.
Yes.
Now, what reason did they give for the refusal?
Well, they just said it's a private road and they didn't... it has to have a clear way for passing...
Right, so just a sec. Passengers means... that can mean people just walking.
And cars.
So the land that you're trying to build this garage on is not yours?
No, it's the side of our bungalow.
Oh, right, so it's not your land?
No.
So you're asking the council to let you build a garage on...
remove this other garage to the side.
Yeah, but what you're asking for is you're asking the council to give you permission to build a garage on somebody else's land.
Yeah, well, they don't even know. They said... Whose land
no, it's not. Right. So, well, you see, that's the problem. I appreciate the difficulty that you and your husband are in, but the council can't give you permission to build a garage on somebody else's property just because you don't know whose it is.
Yeah, well,
they can't do that.
All they say is we'll try.
Well, there's not much they can try to do.
No.
They can try to find the name of the owner and ask the owner.
Yeah.
But how long has the passage been there, Maud?
He's been here ever since we moved in.
I don't know when that was. That might have been last
40
Tuesday.
years ago.
40 years.
Yes.
And have people when people go down that passageway? What's at the other end?
There's an opening onto Hilton Lane.
So, in other words, it's a thoroughfare.
Yes, it is.
It's a right of way.
Yes, and
well, you can't build. You can't build on rights of way.
Yeah. Well, what they said was, if it's been stopped, they've stopped the refuge men from coming round. The council have, because they knocked my gutter off.
Yeah.
And they said, so we don't have any traffic coming through here at all now. Only people passing, walking, you know.
Yeah, but the problem you're up against, Maud, and I don't want to dampen your spirits too much, but the problem you're up against is you're asking for what is almost the impossible. And the reason it's impossible is because that is a right of way, almost certainly. And that would be like, if you think of something really silly, that would be like them saying, well, OK, build it on the road outside your house.
Yeah, we've no garage at all.
No, indeed, no. But the fact that you've not got one doesn't mean that it's a good idea for the council to let you build it on somebody else's land that's a right of way.
I don't think they know, really.
Well, they probably don't know whose land it is, so that kind of gets in the way, because they can't give permission. A daft thing, what they couldn't do, for example, Maud, is they couldn't give your husband and you permission to build a garage in my garden. No. I'd have to be involved, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I mean, I might say yes, you never know. I think it's unlikely, but I might.
Yeah.
But I'm not close enough to Worsley.
No.
But so they can't give you permission to build a garage in my garden.
No.
Or indeed in your neighbour's garden.
But
they can't give you permission to build on a piece of land that is not yours.
But why have they keep saying that they'll try and sort something out when they know they can't?
Well, you see, what they might, I don't know, but what they might be trying to sort out, they might be trying to sort out who owns it.
All these years.
Well, it does take a long time. Well,
40 years.
The problem is, Maud, that it's very difficult. It isn't easy to find the name of the owner.
We've found that out ourselves.
Indeed.
As I say, it's got loads of paperwork.
The great problem is you can establish who doesn't own it, and that's you.
Yeah.
The local authority, they don't own it. But what you can't establish is who does. Just imagine if 50 years ago, well, how long have the houses been up? How old is your house?
About 60.
60 years. Yeah. Just imagine 60 years ago, we've just had a war, everything's upside down, the papers have all been destroyed in a bombing, and they decide to build a housing estate. Yeah. So they buy, they acquire a plot of land and they build on it. But they have to leave a bit, because they can't build on that bit because nobody knows who owns it.
No. So if my husband gets in touch with the council again, which is going down again next week, because I'm in a wheelchair, the cars have been torched, we've nowhere to put a car.
So he's going down again, yeah.
So if he goes down again to the council, what do you advise him to say to them? He's got to get...
I quite frankly don't know that there is anything he can say to them in terms of getting permission from them to build on a piece of land that is currently a right.
It's just a passage, next to the bungalow. It's only a passage.
I can't see anything he can do or say that will get the council to say, yes, you can build on a piece of land whose ownership is doubtful and which is currently used as a right-of-way. Yeah. I cannot see the answer. I cannot see the way you can frame that question to get the answer yes.
So we've nowhere at all to put the...
Well, I can't say you've got nowhere at all, but I suspect you will not be able to put it on somebody else's land, particularly when that land is a right-of-way. Yeah. And I think your husband and yourself are frankly banging your heads against a brick wall to no avail.
Well, this is what it's only because the police have just said, no way must you use this as a garage, because he said you're lucky this time. He said,
well, okay,
you could have been killed.
I don't know how you move forward from here. I just don't.
No, we don't.
No. I would suggest that you
We're too old to move now.
No, I'm not suggesting you move.
Yeah.
I suggest that you seek a garage elsewhere, but put an ad in the local paper, see if there's a garage that somebody is not using that's reasonably close by. If anyone can help further, do give us a call, because it's a horrible, horrible position to be in.
Join me, Becky Want, from 2 today, tiptoeing through the tulips at the Woodford Park Garden Centre on BBC Radio Manchester.
Sometimes you sit here, don't you? You just sit here and you think, I should be able to help there. There should be something that can be done. That lady and her husband need help. But no help is forthcoming, or even, I don't even know where you would look.
95.1 FM, DAB Digital Radio, and the World Wide Web. This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, MPs debate changes to terror detention rules, and unemployment rises to its highest level in 2 years.
And Jussi Jääskeläinen signs a new 4-year deal at the Reebok.
Well, never mind the weather then. Let's have the travel anyway.
Thanks very much. Well, just one lane closed now on the M60 heading clockwise, junction 13, but traffic is still queuing back to junction 12 at the Eccles interchange.
Good afternoon, I'm Faye Rusco. David Cameron's accused Gordon Brown of bad leadership over plans to extend the limit for detaining terrorism suspects without charge to 42 days. MPs will vote on the proposals tonight, with the Conservatives predicting a narrow government victory. Ministers have suggested a number of concessions to win over sceptical Labour MPs. The latest is to pay compensation to any terror suspects who are held beyond the current 28-day limit, then released without charge. At Prime Minister's questions, Mr Cameron challenged Mr Brown.
When you've got former Attorney Generals, soldiers who served against the IRA in Northern Ireland, all saying that this sort of measure could actually help the terrorists rather than hurt them, aren't we making a bad step? Isn't it clear that terrorists want to destroy our freedom, and when we trash our liberties, we do their work for them?
The Prime Minister denied claims the new legislation would be unworkable. He insisted a day would come when the 28-day limit would not be enough.
Our first duty is the protection of national security. We fail in our duty if we do not take preventative measures. I say in sorrow rather than anger, it is no use opposition for opposition's sake. We have to take no risk for security.
The latest figures show there's been the biggest rise in unemployment for nearly 2 years. The number of people out of work rose by 38,000 in the 3 months to April to 1.64 million. Commuters who travel into Manchester from neighbouring counties could get their say over the city's controversial congestion charge. A provisional go-ahead's been given to the scheme in 5 years' time, and now North West MPs are urging the government to listen to views from further afield. Kirsten Fritzl, the 19-year-old whose illness in April alerted Austria's authorities to a major incest scandal, has been reunited with her family after regaining consciousness from a medically induced coma. She's the oldest of 7 children fathered by Joseph Fritzl with Elizabeth, the daughter he held captive for 24 years in a cellar and repeatedly raped. Bethany Bell's been following the story in Austria and says public interest in the case remains high.
People are still asking, how was it that this didn't get uncovered for so long? How was it that Josef Fritzl was able to guard this secret, if you like, that the authorities didn't find out? And I think these are very hard questions that the Austrian people want to see answers to.
It's the final of BBC One's Apprentice tonight, and a lad from Bolton is fighting it out to become Sir Alan Sugar's newest employee. Alex Wotherspoon is up against Lee, Helen and Claire. Andrew Compton is Alex's former geography teacher at Bolton School. He says the 24-year-old showed some business promise even back then.
He set up his own company, and I gather that this involves selling Wotherspoon's black gold topsoil. Now, as his geography teacher, I can tell you with some authority that he didn't know a great deal about soils, but obviously his sales technique more than compensated for that, even at that early stage.
BBC Radio Radio Manchester. Sports with Will Perry.
Well, Bolton goalkeeper Jussi Jääskeläinen has agreed a new 4-year deal, which will see him finish his career at the Reebok Stadium. The 33-year-old Finn was expected to move on at the end of the season following 11 years at the club, but with Bolton guaranteed Premier League football next season, he's decided to stay put. Blackburn captain Ryan Nelson says he won't be following Mark Hughes to Manchester City. The defender has instead pledged his future to Rovers, despite speculation that he would join his former boss at Eastlands. Well, the teams in Group A play their second round of matches at Euro 2008 tonight. Manchester United's Cristiano Ronaldo is in action for Portugal against the Czech Republic at 5 o'clock, whilst host Switzerland face Turkey at 7:45. In cricket, James Anderson and captain Stuart Law will return for Lancashire in tonight's opening match in the 2020 Cup at Leicestershire. Anderson has been on duty with England, whilst Law returns to skipper the side after recovering from a broken finger. BBC Radio Manchester has coverage from 5:30 with ball-by-ball commentary from 6.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Heather Stott.
Well, this afternoon is cool and cloudy. We are going to see a scattering of showers or maybe even some longer spells of rain at times this afternoon. In between times, some brief spells of brightness, but they're going to be in pretty short supply. Top temperatures this afternoon, a cool 16 Celsius.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hiya. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And, of course, you can text on 07786 206 951. With regards to the vote today, this is... I've not got a name, just the letter K. With regards to the vote today on the further erosion of democracy in the UK, I am strongly reminded of the quote from Benjamin Franklin. People willing to trade their freedom for temporary security deserve neither and will lose both. It is ironic that the supposed terrorists wish to destroy our civil liberties, and yet the government seem to be doing a damn fine job of destroying these on their own. We're quickly turning into a banana republic. Last night there was a vote in the House of Commons which went rather unnoticed, which extended the right of the government to use trials without juries. We have seen the effects of circumventing the judicial institutions in the past in the guise of internment in Northern Ireland. I find it sad how quickly politicians forget how must that alienated the nationalist, and how much, I'm sorry, I'll read that again, I'm in a complete pig's ear of that. I find it sad how quickly politicians forget how much that alienated the nationalist communities in Ulster. I was thrown by the fact that it says must, and acted as recruiting tool for terrorist organisations like the IRA. We are condemning the future generations to an entrenched dispute where there can be no winners. That from K. I know no further, but thank you for that. 0161228 2255. Rad in Oldham. Hiya.
Hello.
What have you got for us, Rad?
You were talking to a lady just a while ago about her problems with getting a planning permission.
Yes.
Just to correct things, you don't actually have to own a piece of land to actually get planning permission for it.
That I'm aware, but go on.
Yeah. Essentially, you have three options. You either own the land, or you serve notice on the owners of the land, or you advertise where you are not aware who the owners of the land are. And the councils are then entitled to consider your application on its merits and may issue you with permission, because they're not obliged to know that you own it before you have to build on it. It still leaves you the question of how you resolve ownership afterwards.
Yes.
So from the point of view of actually getting permission, the fact that they don't own it is not critical. What the other thing that I was going to say is that, and it's round about, forgive me because I'm ringing you from outside, so I've not had a chance to check it on the internet.
Don't worry.
But if you look on the RIBA website, the Royal Institute of British Architects,
yeah,
round about the middle or the end of June, they hold an annual week of architecture, where members of the public are provided with addresses of local practices or places where they can go, where for a nominal payment of something like about £10, which I think goes to shelter, they get advice from an architect over what they want to do.
This is like the free will scheme with the solicitors.
Basically,
this is free architecture, yes.
Exactly. And so if the people are not in a position to pay the full rates for having a professional sort of advise them on it, at the very least they'd be able to get a professional opinion for a nominal sum, which might actually then direct them better how they can proceed.
Indeed.
That
could be very, very valuable. Yeah, whilst you're with us, you're clearly in the business.
I'm an architect, yeah.
What are the difficulties in getting planning permission for a piece of land that is, if not designated as such, clearly has had in excess of 40 years use as a public thoroughfare?
Like I say, the issue of issuing planning permission, when I was listening to the lady, she was saying something about that she was disabled and therefore she wanted a garage. Now, garage is a rather vague term in the sense that usually if you're talking about needing to provide space for a car for a disabled person, it's more likely to be a covered way rather than necessarily a garage.
Indeed. In fact...
It may well be that you could actually maintain access, just simply roof over a certain section in order to allow the disabled person to get out in comfort and be able to reach their door without getting soaked in the rain or whatever. And it may be possible to do that at your own expense, you being
Indeed,
own that, providing nobody else objects.
You made the point that you didn't hear the whole call. The reason they want a garage is because their vehicle has suffered, first of all, the difficulties it may have described of the premises they're using now, but also the vehicle has suffered...
something about it falling off the side or something.
Well, that's one thing, yes, but they've had 2 vehicles set fire to on the road and all of that, so merely being...
They do need it secure.
They need it secure, yes,
right. Well,
which is why they're after the garage rather than the carport that you just described. And the carport, yes, may well be a way forward and not breach any ancient rite of passage, as it were. But I've just looked on the REBA website, as you suggested, and I've not yet found... I've found that they have the... I've found the architecture bike tour, if you're interested. That's a bit scary. And even more scary, breakfast with Lloyd Grossman. Why anyone would want tomato sauce at that time of the morning, God alone knows, but there you are. Maybe it's that, the street neighbourhood scheme? No, that's not it. But there are lots of events, so maybe it's part of that. So if I can find anything more about it, I will notify the lady. But thank you very much indeed. That was exciting. Thank you. Bye-bye now. 0161 228 2255. I'm still looking at the website to see if there are any of these free sessions. I'm surprised that if they're on presently, that I've not had an email from REBA about it. Everybody else emails us. I don't know why they should be left out. 0161 228 2255. Ray in Bellevue. Hi, Ray.
Hi, Alan. Nice to speak to you.
And you, sir.
Well, I've watched the Daily Politics on BBC Two with Prime Minister's Questions.
Oh, yes.
And I was much impressed by Gordon Brown. He robustly defended his policy, which he's trying to push through, which is for 42 days detention without charge. Now, the thing is, Gordon Brown cited senior policemen, chief policemen, as backing his policy. But the real reason I came on to what I wanted to say about it was just a cursory thing, was just that he wiped the floor with the Tories, and he did very well. But the thing is, I came on to speak about why I think that people should vote Labour. Now, the thing is, in 1997, the Labour Party, on the first day, dropped the ban of trade unions at GCHQ, and also in 1998 they brought peace to Northern Ireland. Also they brought about the national minimum wage, and also Labour MPs this year have voted to get equal pay for agency workers who the same as full-time workers. So I think Labour are more progressive But
what would you say, given that we started with the discussion in the House of Commons today, Prime Minister's question times, what would you say to those who say, well, Labour may well indeed have done all those things you refer to, but if it wasn't for Labour, London would not have been blown to pieces by terrorists because of Labour's, and I know what you're going to say, it was Tony Blair, it wasn't Labour, but I'm sorry, they voted for it in the end, Labour's war in Iraq.
Yes.
That have turned this country into a terrorist target once again.
Yes,
what would you say to that? Because, you know, the minimum wage's no good if you've just had your face blown off.
No, it's not.
It's not a lot of use at all. So what would you say to that?
Well, I'm against the war in Iraq myself, personally.
OK.
But I believe that Al-Qaeda, the Al-Qaeda leader, Osama bin Laden, was in Afghanistan, according to the latest information that the governments of America and Britain had, and they carried out a diabolical murder of 3,000 people, or 2.5 or 2 3/4,000 people in America, and I believe that Al-Qaeda should not be able to rest. They should be pursued.
Well, yes, but what we've managed to do thus far with Tony Blair's war is, instead of America being the big bogey, we're the little bogey sidekick of the big bogey, and London's been blown to smithereens. You're claiming all these credits for Labour, and you tell me that people should vote Labour, and even you, a great supporter of Labour by all accounts, think the war was a mistake.
Well, I think it's an unjust war in Iraq.
The first responsibility of any government is to protect its people. Do you think Labour has been successful in protecting the people of Britain?
Well, I think it was July the 7th.
Well, do you think... I didn't go into specifics over the minimum wage and all the rest of it. Well, so you say vote Labour, and the reason you give are all secondary, related to the economy and the like. My question is a simple one, Ray. Do you think Labour have made Britain a safer place or a less safe place? What is your view?
A less safe place.
Thank you for your call. 0161 228 2255. Vote Labour. You can have the minimum wage, £5.80 an hour, and get blown up. Ken, in West Horton. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Alan.
What have you got?
You were talking about bin collections earlier.
We were, yes.
Yeah, well...
Dialer crap. Go on.
I have a daughter who lives in Australia. She's lived in New South Wales and now lives in Queensland.
Right.
And I've visited Australia quite frequently over the last 25 years. In fact, I lived there for 12 months. And they have a different system of bin collecting over there, at least on the eastern seaboard they have. The residents...
There's nothing on the western seaboard, Ken. There's only one place.
On the eastern seaboard.
Yeah, I know, I say, they'd have to have it on the eastern. There's nowhere on the western. Go on.
The only stipulation, they have to put the bins out on a specified day and put the front of the bin level with the edge of the pavement.
Oh, this is the automatic picker-upperer.
Yes.
Yeah.
The van comes down, the driver in, nobody with him. The vans are slightly different than ours. They don't load at the back, they're loaded from the top, behind the driver's cab. The driver, they're experts at it. They pull up exactly opposite the waste bin.
We do.
Forks come out, they lift the bin, dip it in behind the back of the driver.
Yeah, they have them in America too.
Yeah.
They have them in a variety of countries. I've seen them operating in Italy. But in Italy, they have an entirely different system where there's every community, if you like, every small community has its bin area. But the truck that comes to empty those large bins, they're more like skips with lids on. Yeah. The vehicle that comes to empty those is entirely automatic. They don't get out of it at all. No. So, yeah, but we have this labour-intensive one. The reason we have the labour-intensive one is historic, and that is that the bin man used to go and collect the metal bin when it was full of ashes, and he used to have a little truck to do it on. And
well, I'm old enough to remember when they used to empty the ash pits with a shovel.
Well, indeed, yeah. Well, that was another use of them, but that we stopped that some times ago. Plumbing saved us from that. But and even in my childhood, the bin man used to come because we were all burning coal in those days, which of course they don't have the same propensity to do in Australia, particularly in Queensland where it's generally warm. And we had dirty grey bins full of ash. And so the bin man used to come and collect them. So that's the history of it, and that's how we've ended up in this situation we're in now. Maybe that's the answer. The great problem is that it would be a brave local authority indeed that said, we're going to, you know, if we were starting again, we may well do what they've done in Australia, what they've done in New York, and what they've done in parts of Italy and elsewhere.
Yeah.
But we're not starting again, we're starting from here. And I think Manchester City Council, which has said protecting services, protecting jobs, if they suddenly said, right, all the bin men have got to be made redundant, they'd be hell to pay.
Yeah.
So it would be politically difficult, although, as you say, a perfectly sensible way forward. The other thought I have, of course, is that there are the footpaths in Australia, just sounding silly, the footpaths in Australia
as wide as our roads.
They're as wide as our roads, exactly, because they've got a lot more land. They've got land they've not found yet, whereas we're a rather more congested society. But having said that, we compare favourably to New York in terms of size of paths. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But yes, I've seen that system, and it seems to work well.
Well, it does in Australia. What I've seen of Australia, I've not travelled all over Australia.
No, right.
I've travelled as far south as Sydney and as far north as Cairns, and it seems to operate in those areas.
Yeah, it does. It operates all over, but I don't know who's going to break it to the unions that fund an awful lot of Labour politicians that were sacking all their members. Good on you, Ken. I like the system. 0161 228 2255. Automatic would do it. Rent-a-crap would be even better. Well, just more entertaining, really.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Headline news.
Commuters who travel into Manchester from neighbouring counties could get their say over the city's proposed congestion charge. Kirsten Fritzl, the 19-year-old whose illness in April alerted Austria's authorities to a major incest scandal, has been reunited with her family after regaining consciousness from a medically induced coma. And it's the final of BBC One's Apprentice tonight, and a lad from Bolton is fighting it out to become Sir Alan Sugar's newest employee. Alex Wotherspoon is up against Lee, Helen and Claire. Manchester's weather, bright spells but generally cloudy with scattered rain, highs of 16 Celsius. I'm Faye Rusco.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Still queuing traffic on the clockwise M60, heavy from junction 11 at Barton through to 13 at Worsley. We've got just one lane closed off now at the scene of that accident. It was a full motorway closure in place earlier on, with just lane 1, which is currently closed. It was involving a lorry, a car and a caravan. And also through Prestwich, watch out for delays, Very New Road. The traffic light's still out of action at the junction of Scholes Lane, so approach that junction with care. Anything else, call in hands-free 0161 244 4951. I'm Dave Chipman.
2020 traffic means you get an update every 20 minutes through the day.
On the detention of suspect terrorists debate, which is sort of underway, but got somewhat vitriolic coverage during Prime Minister's question time, David says, I didn't hear David Cameron say that a future Tory government would scrap any extension to the 28-day internment without trial policy. He has said that within a week of new Tory government he'll scrap the hunting with dogs bill. Well, David, you may well not have heard him, and I don't know whether David Cameron has said it, but certainly the Shadow Home Secretary has said on BBC Radio that they will, if the 42-day detention comes in, they will repeal it back to 28 days should they win the next election. So they have said that. They've not said it in so many words at Prime Minister's question time, and I've not heard David Cameron say it, but the spokesperson, the Home Secretary's opposite number has said it. George in Wigan, hiya. Hiya, George.
Hiya, Al.
What have you got, mate?
I'm having trouble with a phone company. It's a little complicated, but they wanted me to pay a standing order, and the bank I was with brilliantly said that they fined me £173 because I was £1 short of the monthly fee they charged. So I only went to this company in April.
You mean I'm sorry to be picky, but you mean a direct debit?
Yeah, sorry, that's correct. Yeah. And I've never really had one.
Yeah.
And the bank didn't really want me, in a sense, because I'm a senior. And anyway, my first payment wasn't paid, so I spoke to the phone company, and I said, well, sorry about that. I don't want to lose the service. What can I do? And they said, well, here's our sort code and account number. You can pay your money into there. I said, fine. So I did that. And I've had what they call, in 2 months, I've had about 5 or 6, my phone's has been erupted. Even now I can't call out. And I said, well, I paid you. I hadn't paid. They said, well, check your account. I paid it into your account. So it took them a couple of days, still my phone off, and they couldn't find it. Well, what date? I said, well, surely it would be there. It's new. So they finally found it. It was for early, I told them it was early May. So they found that, and then I paid the next one. And every time I put money in to pay, they keep saying I haven't paid. I put it into their account number. And then out of the blue, I got a phone call from Scotland saying I owed this company I've had 3 phone, quite aggressive, £105. And I don't owe them that. And every time I told them that, they said, no, you do, and if you don't do anything about it, further things will happen. I said, okay, I wouldn't mind going to speak to a judge at the moment. Well, what's going on? Basically, I'm not getting for what I paid for. What can I do?
Move.
But
I don't mean move out.
No, move.
Change supplier.
But they said if I leave, it's a yearly contract. If I leave, it'll cost me £60.
Write to them and say you've disrupted my service for
regular. Good, thank you. Sorry, Al.
You've disrupted my service for no good reason, and therefore I believe you to be in breach of contract. Sever it immediately, and I'm moving to somewhere else. And if you want the £60, tell the judge.
That's what I thought, Al. Okay. Thanks for that.
If they've disrupted your service...
Yeah, because they said I haven't paid, and I have paid, Alan.
Indeed. Well, if they've disrupted your service without good reason, and you think they're in breach of contract, which you pay them money, they give you a phone service, if you think they're in breach of contract, tell them that, because you don't have to pay to transfer from a company that's breaking the contract.
No, you've always said you should get what you pay for.
I always believe that.
Yeah, sure, I know.
Play your cards right, you should get a little more than that.
Sure.
But certainly, yeah, just tell them, as far as you're concerned, they're in breach of contract. You're not breaking it. It is already broken by them. They are correct in saying if you break the contract, they can charge you £60 to terminate
if I put money in there... Sorry, Al.
But you're not breaking it, they are.
If I put money in their account, how long would it take them to find that? Roughly?
It depends how you put it in.
I put it in their sort code and account number in a Barclays bank.
But what was it? A cheque?
No, cash. Sorry,
cash. I think it would probably take 7 days to get to them.
Okay, but one of the arguments was it took 3 weeks. And they asked me. I said it's been in 3 weeks. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then I've got this phone call from Glasgow saying they're £104. 3 times they've called me. Twice when I wasn't in, and 3 times when I've been on the phone. And they're adamant I owe this company £105, and I don't.
Well, as I say, just write and say, A, you're in breach of contract, and B, your administration's crap anyway. So, thank you very much.
Okay, I believe you're in line for the wire job.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Yes, be interesting.
Thank you, Al.
Have a good day. 0161228 2255. You want to join us, you can. It's dead easy. Kevin says, that lady said the police have told me to ring you. Are you getting referrals now? Kevin, yes, I am. And if the lady's listening, Maud, might I suggest that you go and see start with your local Citizens Advice Bureau. Go and see them. There's one in... Where were you? You were in Boothstown. There's one in Lee. There's one in Manchester, obviously. They're all over the place. But go and see your local Citizens Advice Bureau and see if they can help you to find your way through the melange that's happening at the moment. Go and have a word with them, because frankly they might be able to see a way through the paperwork. Without the paperwork it's always impossible. Stuart in Newell Green. Hiya, mate.
Hi, Alan. Alan, listen to your mass debate as usual. They're talking about the thing for charging
Congestion charge?
No, not the congestion.
Oh, right, sorry.
No. I'm all in favour of that.
Okay.
Hey, listen, Alan. I'm all in favour because I've got my bus pass. I got it 12 months before.
Yeah, I'll be getting mine in October. I'll have to wait and see whether it's worth it.
Alan, I'll be getting the heating allowance in September.
Will you?
At the inflated price. You'll get it when it comes down again.
That's an outrage and a scandal, isn't it?
It is.
I know.
I'm talking about the... oh, God. Did they give me tablets for my memory? I can't take them. I can't remember where I put them. The thing with the terrorist thing.
The 42 days detention.
42 days detention, yeah. And not often I agree with a Tory, but the leader of the Tories didn't say this, but I agree with him. Necessity is the plea of every infringement on human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants. It is the creed of slaves. So it's a quotation. It's not. I don't write.
I was beginning to get that. Go on.
And the other thing is Phaedrus. I can't remember it. I've got long-term memory, but I can't remember. It's 45 BC, I think. And he said, in an election, the poor changed the name of their masters.
Well, yes, quite.
Going to Gordon Brown, he built his reputation on what he inherited from the Tories.
Yes.
And nothing has changed. Nothing has changed.
Well, depends on your definition of change. It changes every day, but because we change with it, it always looks the same.
Yeah, exactly, but we've changed our masters.
Yeah. What are the alternatives? I don't know what the alternatives are.
The poor in an election changed the name of the masters.
But what is the alternative?
Well, you'd have to go to, what do you call it, the cemetery in London.
Well, no, you wouldn't, because there are other things. We have the ability, if we put our mind to it, we have the ability to think our way through this. The alternative to a democratic system, which allows us to change our masters, as your great quotation tells us, the alternative is a dictatorship where we don't get the option to change our masters, and therefore our masters have no obligation to reason.
Well, I might agree with this.
It's not me you're agreeing with. You're just agreeing with the opposing argument to statements like, in an election, the poor changes its masters.
Alan, I'm getting worried that I'm agreeing with you more and more.
Well, there you go. It happens in the end. Don't worry, I'm about to change sides. Go on.
Alan, the third thing, hands off our operational services department, i.e. refuse collection.
I'm sorry, I'm starting a campaign. I've already got the bugger all party. We'll do bugger all when elected. I've got that already looking absolutely marvellous. Well, it's beginning to look very, very attractive to many, and I'm now going on to dialer crap.
Yeah,
and frankly, I'm absolutely unopposed in election here. No one could stand against me.
I'm putting a pitch out to get a reduction in my council tax, but my refuse collection is second to none. It's improved since they brought wheelie bins out.
And how many wheelie bins are you required to have in your district?
I've only got... I don't know.
You don't know?
They empty mine. That's all that matters.
You wait until you've got to have a green and a pink and a blue and your garden's full of it. It's on the way. No, it's on the way in some places.
I've just elected to have a green wheelie bin.
Excellent.
A wheelie, I have it.
Well, good on you.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Well, second to none, our refuse collection in
Excellent.
Green.
Remember that at Christmas. 0161 228 2255. Mustafa in Manchester. Hiya.
Hi, Alan.
Hi.
Actually, I'm just ringing regarding the gentleman who rang regarding his problem with the telephone company.
Yes.
Yes, I think what's happened with him, maybe he did not put his account number, the reference number to which the company can locate him.
Possibly.
It's happened to me once, 9 years ago, and it was very difficult to locate my money, and it took about over a month.
Good Lord. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe that is what happened. We don't have George back on to tell us, but he may well have a look at that. I'm not sure that the company will be that bothered about losing him as a customer if he's not on direct debit anyway.
That's right, yes.
Because they only want direct debit customers these days, don't they? Everybody else costs them money and they don't want that.
That's right. Thank you very much, Alan.
Excellent. Thank you for that. George, you need to, if you do make another deposit, there is a bit on the form where it tells you, where it asks you to give a reference number. You may well have a reference number. Put it on it, because it'll make it easier for them to find it at the other end. Good point from Mustafa. You see, it's like a little team, this. Well, not that little a team now, come to think of it, quite a big team. The whole of Greater Manchester's quite a big team, isn't it? Can't win anything like, but apart from that. Why don't they bring in a law allowing suspects to be charged with terrorism awaiting evidence? Surely the point of the 42 days is to wrong-foot the opposition parties into voting against it. And after the next atrocity, Brown can say, it's your fault. Well, maybe that is the point. Maybe that is indeed the point. But it's not really been very successful in other places or other times. It wasn't a great success. Somebody referred earlier to internment, and also, of course, the diplock courts were involved. So, yeah, it's not really been a great success. I asked yesterday what were the exclusive services provided by post offices, because people were getting agitated about post office closures, and I kept thinking, well, if they close the one on our street, I don't think I'd notice, other than when the charity shop moved in. Do you know what I mean? So what do? What do post offices do that can't be done anywhere? Yeah, they sell sweets, they sell brown paper parcelling stuff and all that, but you can get that at the supermarket. You can get most things at the supermarket. Stamps, we can buy stamps in a canteen at the BBC, for God's sake. You buy stamps anywhere these days. So what do post offices do or sell that nobody else sells? Well, there's always one, isn't there? There's always one. Karen tells me that the post offices sell postal orders. Good. So, they sell something pointless. Now, what do they sell that's of use? Linda, in Oldham. Hiya.
Hiya. I wonder if there's any plumbers out there can tell me if it's right. When you get hot water, you have to put your cold water on and all. Right? What it is...
Whoa. You have to put your cold water on...
What it is, we've got no hot water, right? Coming through the shower or coming through the taps downstairs in the sink. What we have to do, get hot water, is if we have a shower, we've got to put the cold water on in the sink, then run the shower. Now, the place we rent this house from told us it's right. Now, we were told it was the shower. So we rung somebody.
Hang on. Let me see if I've got the picture correct. So, where's your shower? Upstairs.
Upstairs, yeah.
Right. In order for you to have hot water.
Yeah.
In your shower.
Yeah.
You will not get that. If you turn the shower tap on, what happens?
Get cold water.
You get cold water.
We've got.
Listen to no. Let me try and find the picture, because if you tell it me again, I'll just hear what you said before, and I still won't know. So the upstairs shower, you turn the tap on, and it runs cold.
Cold, yep.
If you then come downstairs and turn the cold tap on in the sink and let the water run,
then we get hot.
The water upstairs goes warm.
Yep. Then we can have a shower.
Well, I know the purpose of the shower. Thank you for your help. It sounds balmy. I've never heard of it.
Well, then we was told it was the shower. Then we rung somebody out of the Thompson book, and it came down that two people we rung out of the Thompson book, and do just all showers and that. They came down and they wouldn't even touch the shower. He said, it's not your shower, it's your boiler. It's your boiler, he said. And they wouldn't even touch the shower, put a new shower. They wanted a new shower put in her, and they wouldn't even touch the shower. They say if they did the job, they're not say it's going to work. They're not say it's going to work. So we rung the housing association up again, and we told them what they told us. They came down, and they will have it. It's the shower. So one saying it's a boiler, and one saying it's the shower. So what do we do?
Blimey, I've no idea.
Because at the moment now, when I wash up at night time, I've got to put a kettle on.
Well, that's ludicrous, isn't it? So you can't even get hot water downstairs?
No.
But you can get hot water upstairs
if we run the cold water.
If you run the cold water downstairs.
Yeah.
No, let's
So I want to know if
it's
any
okay, don't worry. I'm just thinking it through. The consequence of running the cold water...
Yeah, then the hot water...
No, I'm thinking. You don't need to talk for me to think. The consequence of you running the cold water is that it reduces the pressure to the shower.
Yeah.
And if it reduces the pressure to the shower, that gives the boiler a little bit more time to warm the water. And so just logic tells me, sounds like the boiler. Let me ask you a question. I don't know whether you've tried this experiment. I presume you have a sink upstairs.
I've got a sink, yeah.
Yeah. Can you get hot water to the sink?
Only slightly.
So
warm,
yes is the answer.
Warm.
Slightly. Okay. There's another experiment you can do.
What's that?
You might have already done it. If you turn on the sink tap upstairs...
That's what we do.
You get...
If we turn the cold water on in the sink, then run the shower, we get hot water.
Yeah, okay. Have we tried the other way round? You don't... That's the only time and the only way you get hot water, is just you've got a cold water tap running elsewhere in the home. Okay. Presumably you got one of those mixer valves on your shower, not separate taps.
No, we've got a mixer thing.
It's a mixer, because okay. Well, it's okay. That eliminates another experiment.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to agree with the people who say it's the boiler. The reason I'm tempted to agree with that is because it sounds like the boiler is not heating the water at the speed it goes through the boiler. So if you slow it down, if you reduce that pressure by running more taps, it gives it time to heat it up.
Well, that's what that fella said.
And he was a plumber.
Yeah, that's what that fella said.
I think he's right. Let's see what others think.
Well, that's what that fella said, who come out from the Thompson finger. He said, you're not getting enough pressure.
Did he by any chance write it down?
He wrote it down on a piece of paper.
Right.
And he wrote it on a piece of paper.
Right.
And then he said the best thing to do is get back
Okay, well, stay on the line, Linda. Stay on the line and we'll tell you where to go next, because I think the plumber's probably right. Can anyone help in terms of the plumbing element of it? Got plumbers in our house at the minute.
BBC
I'll ask him when I'll ask Mark when I get home.
Commuters who travel into Manchester from neighbouring counties could get their say over the city's proposed congestion charge. The latest figures show there's been the biggest rise in unemployment for nearly 2 years. The number of people out of work rose by 38,000 in the 3 months to April to 1.64 million. And Kirsten Fritzl, the 19-year-old whose illness in April alerted Austria's authorities to a major incest scandal, has been reunited with her family after regaining consciousness from a medically induced coma. Manchester's weather, bright spells, but cloudy as well, with scattered showers, highs of 16 Celsius. I'm Anna Dawson.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
A couple of hotspots on the M60 clockwise. There was an accident 12 to 13. That's Eccles to Worsley. One lane remains closed between those two junctions, and all the vehicles involved in the accident are on the hard shoulder. So traffic's heavy clockwise 12 to 13. And I'm looking at the cameras around junction 5, Princess Parkway. Princess Parkway, right the way to Stretford at junction 7. Traffic is unusually busy. Looks like there's some lane closures at junction 5. I'll look into that one for you. Or if you can help me out, perhaps keep us updated hands-free. 0161 244 4951. I'm Marie Megan.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Bolton goalkeeper Jussi Jääskeläinen has agreed a new 4-year deal, which will see him finish his career at the Reebok Stadium. The 33-year-old Finn was expected to move on at the end of the season following 11 years at the club, but with Bolton guaranteed Premier League football next season, he's decided to stay put. Blackburn captain Ryan Nelson says he won't be following Mark Hughes to Manchester City. The defender has instead pledged his future to Rovers, despite speculation that he would join his former boss at Eastlands. Well, a little bit of movement in the transfer market today. Fulham have finally completed the free signing of midfielder Zoltan Gera from West Brom. That's after the Hungarian passed a medical this afternoon. The teams in Group A play their second round of matches at Euro 2008 tonight. Manchester United's Cristiano Ronaldo is in action for Portugal against the Czech Republic at 5 o'clock, whilst host Switzerland face Turkey at 7:45. Well, former United midfielder Paul Ince says there's not much the Reds can do if Ronaldo wants to move to Real Madrid. The current MK Dons boss says the Portuguese winger may feel he's done all he can at Old Trafford.
All I would say in the matter is that as a kid growing up in England, you know, I always wanted to play for Manchester United or one of the big clubs, Man United and Liverpool. I think when you're a foreign lad, whether it's Spain, Portugal, Italy, you know, you want to play for the big teams over there, which is Real Madrid, Barcelona, Inter Milan. And maybe a Christian's thinking, you know, he had such a fantastic season last year. He won the Premiership, he won the Champions League. What more else can he do for Manchester United? Maybe you think along those lines.
Well, a final bit of football news for you. And the chairman of the Premier League claims the increase in overseas players has damaged the England team. Sir David Richards also believes the academy system hasn't worked. In Rugby League, Wigan duo Gareth Hock and Phil Bailey are both doubts for Saturday's game against the Catalan Dragons. Hock picked up an ankle injury in training, whilst Bailey damaged his groin against Leeds in the Challenge Cup. And with captain Sean O'Loughlin still sidelined, Cameron Phelps could be set to make his first team debut in Perpignan. Bradford forward Glenn Morrison has been ruled out for the rest of the season. The Bulls had hoped he'd be fit to face St Helens in the Super League on Friday, but he broke part of his kneecap against Leeds last month. In Rugby Union, Leicester Tigers have signed Toby Flood. Flood's joined from Newcastle and will link up with his new side after England's tour of New Zealand. Cricket is about to get its latest makeover, and in half an hour we'll find out the details about the new 2020 competitions being bankrolled by a Texan billionaire. Sir Alan Stanford plans a multi-million-pound series between England and his own all-star team in Antigua, a new international tournament in London, with each winning player receiving $1 million. James Anderson and Stuart Law will both return to the Lancashire team for tonight's opening 2020 Cup game against Leicestershire. Anderson has been on England duty, whilst Law has recovered from a broken finger. Lancashire's Luke Sutton believes they've hit form with the bat at the right time.
Confidence is that magic thing, isn't it? And I think that's what we were lacking, a little bit of confidence, particularly with the batting. And the last two games, I think there's confidence has come back into the batting unit. And that confidence will hang around in the 2020, and it will be here for the next championship game. It's just, I'm glad we found it now, and we're not still searching.
We'll have coverage here on BBC Radio Manchester of Lancashire's first 2020 Cup game against Leicestershire from 5:30 this evening, with ball-by-ball commentary from 6. England's international 2020 match with New Zealand at Old Trafford on Friday. That's been declared as a sellout. And in tennis, defending champion Andy Roddick has lost the first set of a tie-break to Robbie Ginepri at the Artois Championships at Queen's.
I had a funny journey in this morning. I was driving in. I was just sitting there outside Sainsbury's and all them other shops in Salford, and you know, on a sunny day when they've got the window open, you open your window, even though you've got air conditioning, you open your window in your car. The bloke in front, typical of course, was a smoker, and the last thing smokers want is smoke in the car. You think they'd pay extra for that. Anyway, I had the window open, and the smoke from his cigarette came into my car. And I thought he was smoking dog turds. I did, honestly. It was vile. Oh, God, it was awful. I couldn't work out what was going on, and then I saw another car going the other way, and he had a pair of clogs hanging off his windscreen wiper. I couldn't fathom that.
Euro 2008 on the BBC. Who will you support?
I will be following France because I'm an Arsenal supporter. You've got Anelka, Clichy, Henry.
Thierry Henry now racing to the left side of the penalty area. Dummies, shoots and scores!
The Dutch are always methodical.
I do like the way the Dutch play. They play it nice and quick on the ground, and that's how football should be played.
What a goal by Ruud van Nistelrooy! That wasn't even half a chance!
Euro 2008 continues, including France versus the Netherlands. Friday night, kicking off at 7:45 on BBC One.
So how much licence fee monies have we paid for that rubbish? Linda in Oldham, hiya Linda.
Hiya.
Right, I think we've got the gist of your problem here, and we've got a number of people who've phoned in, yeah, so stay where you are. I'm going to talk to Ken, because I'm told he's a plumber. Ken?
Hiya, Alan, you all right?
Yeah, you've been listening to Linda's problem.
I have, yeah.
Oh.
It depends on what kind of boiler she's got. If it's a
hang on. What sort of boiler you got, Linda?
It's a candy boiler.
A combi boiler, right, OK, a combi. Go on, Ken.
It's the diverter valve, what's going on.
It's the diverter valve, right. It's not the shower at all.
No, it's the diverter valve. What it is, this boiler we've got now, they've put a hell of a load of new parts in it, right? And when the water runs, the water cuts out. The heater cuts out. Yeah, well, you have a high limit stat on it. Yeah. And
If it's firing up right away and not moving through your system, then it will go out on high limit.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And you've got to reset that. But it's your diverter valve what's definitely gone on your boiler.
Your diverter valve?
Yeah.
Right. So if I get back onto my house and tell them that now?
Yep.
And that's what it is?
That's what it is.
All right.
Right. Thanks very much.
Good on you,
help.
Ken. Thank you, Ken.
All right, Alan. See you.
Thank you, Linda. Your diverter valve.
Right.
All right.
I get rid of that and I'll tell them that.
Because other people were saying the diaphragm, but frankly, you know, frankly, I shouldn't go in there and say my diaphragm's gone all wonky, because you never know what they'll do to you. I should stick with the diverter valve if I were you.
I'll tell them that.
All right, good on you.
Thanks very much, bye.
And lots of other people have suggested that it is either, depending on the type of boiler, the diaphragm or the diverter valve, so there you are. There you are. Problem solved. Now, if anyone can whip round to Maud's and build her a garage on somebody else's land in a pathway, then we'll all be happy.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones.
0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Ask and you shall receive. Mike says, is the boiler a combi? If so, do the radiators heat up properly? If they do, it may be what is called, the diverter valve in the boiler not functioning fully. See? A diverter valve. The diverter valve, as its name implies, is the thing that tells all the heat to go to the water instead of the pipes. I think. But don't bother telling me if I'm wrong. I hate it. Terry in Reddish. Here we go again, comparing our little farting island with another country. A little farting island? That's a bit harsh. Yeah. I don't think the island does that. I think the people on it might. I think that fellow in the French car in front did. Here we go again, he says, comparing our little island with another country. This time it's the bin collecting in Australia. The system your listener advocated that takes place in Queensland couldn't possibly work here. How is a one-man waste wagon going to be able to get down our streets to automatically collect the bins? Unlike Queensland, where they have front gardens as big as Albert Square and roads as wide as the M60, we simply do not have the space. Even the mechanical road sweeper can't get down because of the parked cars. We even have parked cars all day long, parked on the pavement. There's no room for the bins. You see, it's the car again causing the problems. Ban them all, I say. Except yours. Another and better idea is needed. Yeah, rent-a-crap. We've solved it. Don't worry, we're having rent-a-crap. Absolutely. And there's 2 L's in Allen whilst you're on. You, Terry in Reddish. 2 L's in Allen. I'm gonna stop reading them out. Allen, do you reckon as I do that the guy on the news just now with the Oz accent was on something? Yeah, he was on the news. That's Keith. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure that's what you meant. I shouldn't have read that. It's too late now. It's out. Bins are us. No, bins are us is no good. No, it's got to be rent-a-crap. It's the only one. Yeah, it's the one. What we need is every house could have a tube in it, and you stuff the tube in at the house end and have a little door on it, and then it could all come out. You'd need a big shover, but it could all come out sort of at the curbside. Yeah, that'd work. It would. Works for all them takeaways. Yeah. Read The Lady with the Lights in the Sky. This subject brought to mind an idea I had some time ago. This is John of Lymm. Why don't you compile a CD of this and other tales? Top of the list would be the man who had an earnest discussion with you on generating electricity by pumping water to the top of the Pennines and passing it through turbines on the way down. If Blaster Bates could do it, so could you. What a present for Father's Day. I did that years ago. In a previous life, I sold 2... They were cassettes then. I sold 2 cassettes of phone calls. Yeah. And we had, I think it was 6,000 of each. Does anyone want to buy 5,998 cassettes? We had a lot left. Yeah, I made a record once as well, but that's neither here nor there. It's not... No, I did. It wasn't just me. I mentioned it a few weeks back, and I still haven't found a copy. I said I'd get in touch with Dave Dutton. He's bound to have one, but because he wrote it, but I never did. 2 fingers to move a bin, says Kevin. I saved my 2 fingers for December when they called to wish me compliments of the season. I'm sure that works. Colin in Stockport. Hiya, Colin.
Good afternoon, Alan.
Good afternoon, sir.
I was just wondering if I can get a little bit of your input as to what you would do in a situation like this. A couple of weeks ago, I was fishing, and the chaps who check your licence came round, and I'd mislaid mine.
Oh dear.
So we were at the bank, and he called up his office and checked my name and address, and he said, "Oh, you haven't got one." And I said, "Well, that's very strange because I bought it online on the 6th of April." "Well, you're not registered as having one, so I'm giving you a ticket." So Monday morning, I calls up the Environment Agency and turned around and said, "I believe I don't have a licence." "That's correct." They said, "You don't have one." I said, "But I've got the bank to tell me the authentication number of the cheque that they paid you for £25. "Oh, well, we don't have record of it. So the fine will stand if you don't return it within 7 days." Now, since then, I've had to go out and buy another licence because I need one every weekend. I'm just wondering if I can get my £25 back.
If you can prove that you've spent 25 quid buying a licence and they've not delivered it, then, yeah, of course you can.
I mean, even though I gave them the authentication number from my bank.
Well, the authentication number from the bank means absolutely nothing. That just tells you, and anyone else that wants to know, that you spent £25. What we need is to say what you spent it on. Now, you said you wrote a cheque.
No.
Well,
it was
what you
done
said.
done by credit card on the internet.
Right, so you did it by credit card.
Yeah.
So you did it on the internet.
Yeah.
Right. And you've now got your credit card statement saying that money's been paid.
Well, it will appear in the next couple of days. They've told me it will be sent to me.
Right. Well, when you get it, get onto your credit card company and say that money shouldn't have been paid. I want it back.
What the next £25 or the first one?
Well, how did you pay first time?
By credit card on the internet.
Right. I'm astounded that they don't have a record of it, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you ought to be grabbing them by the throat and finding out why they haven't got a record.
I've spent 2 hours on the phone with them, Alan,
and have they said, we don't think this money has been paid?
No, what they've said is, well, there's about 40 or 50 different ways to check it, but we haven't got the time to do that at the moment.
That's fine, but they've not issued a licence for it?
No, they haven't, no.
Right. And do you at this stage know that first £25 was paid?
Oh yeah, I called my credit card company up.
Let's go back to what you're going to do about this not having your licence. When you were approached by I think he's called the bailiff.
The bailiff, yeah.
When you're approached by the bailiff, what are you doing about that?
Well, now I'm just waiting on them sending me the fine.
Right, so you're going to pay the fine?
Well, I'm not going to pay it, really.
Okay, well, that's all right, relax. Is there a requirement to have your licence with you when fishing?
You're supposedly to carry it, but they can check the water.
No, I'm not interested in what they can do. I'm interested in what the obligation is.
Yeah, you are supposed to carry it.
And do the regulations say if you don't carry it and you can't show it at the time, you'll be fined?
No.
They don't say?
No.
But the obligation is on you to prove at the time that you have a licence?
Yes.
Without knowing the rules and regulations, I don't know whether you'll have to pay that fine or not. If you are able to demonstrate to whoever it is, the authorities, the court or whatever, if you're able to demonstrate that you did pay for the licence and you've obeyed every rule, they can give you an absolute discharge.
Yeah.
If indeed you're not required to carry the licence but are required to own it, you can say, well, there isn't an offence. I bought one. I have a licence. You presumably had a licence issued at that time.
Yes. Oh, yes. I mean, but this is the problem, is that basically...
So have you now got two licences?
I've got one licence in my possession at the moment.
And one on the way?
No, sorry, I've got one now that you just sent me from the last one. I didn't get one from the first one.
Right,
they sent me an authentication number.
Right, so you weren't issued with a licence for your first 25 quid?
No.
Right.
But they send you, over the line, they send you an authentication number, and I typed it off.
The authentication number is from the licensing authority, not the bank?
Correct.
Right, so they've said, yes, we've got your 25 quid, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And they sent me a number, which I printed off to be on my printer, to be honest. But I mislaid that, so...
Well, you can print it off again.
Well, your printer doesn't have a memory like that, unfortunately. Mine doesn't, anyway.
Well, your computer does.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I mean,
presumably the email they sent you is still on your system.
No, it's not, Alan. I don't know why, but it's not. I mean, but the thing is, as I said, when I called up my bank, they told me, well, yes, you paid £25 to the environmental agency on that date, and this is the number that they've given us to accept it. And I give them that number as well, and they said, no, that doesn't work.
Okay. Well, I think in your case, unless there is an obligation to carry your licence with you at all times, I'd go to court and take all the evidence, including that identification number, and see if the judge tells them to look through the cupboard. See you tomorrow.
Well, the holiday tan has faded, the wedding cake is stale, but how do you keep your marriage alive when